skating, and then we heard these rumblings that ESPN wants to start a competition that is extreme. And back then, rollerblading was the thing. You know what I mean? Rollerblading. Skate shops to survive had to sell rollerblades. And we were all, you know, in the skate community, just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But then again, sometimes you would end up doing exhibitions, piggybacking off of some rollerblade exhibition because they rode the same ramps as we did. And so the extreme games, ESPN decided we're going to create the extreme games, and just everything extreme, and it's rollerblading, it's bikes, and it's sky surfing, and it's bungee jumping, and it's rock climbing, and it's like, what are you talking about? But I knew there was something there that if we came in as skateboarders and represented skating well, we would rise above the pack of all these other sort of, I don't want to say flash in the pans because a lot of people thought skateboarding was that, but other sports that didn't really belong in that sort of genre. And there was a lot of backlash from the skate community. They said, this is lame, this is, you know, they got big sponsors. And I said, you guys, if we don't step up as the sort of cream of the crop of skating, they're still going to have skating in it, and some other dudes are going to come in and be the biggest recognized names in skating, and guys that you probably don't want to have that position. And so most of the main guys hit it. We got in there, and you know, there was a big learning curve with the X Games. They of course realized which sports were much cooler and which ones they wanted to hang on to. And all along, I thought I was sort of retiring from, I hate the word retire, but I thought that I was not going to be competing anymore, and that I was going to be more of a businessman with Birdhouse. Birdhouse is my skate company. I was going to be more behind the scenes, but I'd never stopped skating. And they were having these competitions, and so I jumped in. And all of a sudden, ESPN decided, whoa, he's making a comeback. Comeback, like, there were no competitions to come back to before this one. But okay, we're come back, whatever works. And I was doing really well. You know, I was winning a lot of the events. Suddenly other events, other series started coming in. You know, kids, the MTV generation, they loved what they were seeing from these X Games. They were like, wow, these guys are cool and they seem accessible. That was, I think the thing was they could see that we genuinely loved what we were doing. And we weren't jaded by huge salaries, we weren't jaded by big sponsors. We were tangible, we skated with the kids, we skated with the crowd. And I feel like they really identified with that, and they loved it. And you know, suddenly the X Games. Anyway, you can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
So the X Games, you know, they started really rising in popularity, getting bigger ratings, getting bigger prize money, and we. At one point, I threw out my back, and at some point, I'd never pursued a trick for so long, and not being able to do it. So I was like, I can't do it. I can't do that trick. That trick is over. So back to the best trick event, I'd made a barrel 7, and I thought, well, you know, what else do I got? I have 900s. I'll just try some for the crowd. That'll, I guess, be exciting. And because they knew, a lot of people in the skate industry knew that there was sort of this collective chase for the 900. There was about 5 people total. Danny Way was one of them. This guy, Rob Sluggo Voice, Tuss Pappas. A few guys had been trying it, get really close, but no one had made it. No one had landed and rode away. And so, you know, everyone knew that this was something we were all trying to do. And so I started trying it, and all of a sudden, it was coming together. It was consistent. Every time I took off, the spin was right, and as I started coming around, like on the 5th or 6th one that I tried, I thought, wow, I could actually throw this down. Like, it's never been this consistent for me. Usually, like, one is great, and the next one is just flail out in space. I don't know where I am. Because there's a point in the trick where you're blind to the ramp twice. And the first time you go by so fast, it's not a big deal. But the second time is when everything can go wrong. Is when if you don't have a hold of your board and you're trying to reach for it, you're not tucked, you're not spinning all the way, you're going to end up falling out of the sky on your back. And the worst thing you can do is open up in the middle of that, which I did plenty of times. So it started coming together, and then I started throwing it on the wall and not falling forward, and suddenly I somehow realized this in the middle of all this hype. I mean, there's this huge crowd in San Francisco. I realized that if I just shift my weight a little bit to the back foot during the spin, I can fix this problem of falling forward and breaking my ribs. There was no, I didn't think I was going to be judged for it. I didn't think I was going to be on TV. I was just like, I'm doing it. I'm either doing it or I'm going to the hospital. That was in my head. That was it. Like, I'm either making this or I'm waking up and I got IVs in me. And then all of a sudden, I threw it on the wall, and I was riding. I was riding away, and I'll never forget not believing it. Like, I'm riding away, and I'm up the next wall, and I'm like, that wasn't it, was it? That was it? Really? And the only verification I had is when I turned to where the friends and family section was at the X Games. Everyone was on their feet and rushing me, and I thought, I guess I did it.